Okay. Recording. Okay, awesome. So hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about listing presentations, and I'm going to share with you how I do my listing presentations, some tips and tricks, and show you about the listing presentation in the RSA for you. So I think, and also at the end of this, of course, I'll share the PowerPoint. I'll share all of the handouts that I give to potential sellers in my listing presentation. You can change my information and put yours in and make it yours. And we're going to talk a little bit about scripts and dialogues and objection handling and that sort of thing. I have some scripts for that. I'm not going to get too much into that today, but I'll give what I have to you for scripts. You can practice them on yourselves, practice them with a family member or a friend or each other. And that way, when you start to work on listings, you'll have some idea of what sellers might say to you and how to handle objections and get them to hire you. Okay, so here we go. All right, I'm gonna get, I didn't get my, I'm gonna do share screen there. And we gotta go get my PowerPoint presentation, which I prepared last night to get ready. And now we gotta get into it. Okay, slideshow from beginning. I think this will work. Okay, I'm gonna get this share thing down out of the way or somewhere out of the way. Okay, there it goes. All right, so here we go. Somehow, let me get going here. There we go. There, okay. So basically this is what I just said about what we're gonna cover today. Listing presentation basics, preparing for your listing presentation. There's a lot of preparation that's going to be needed before you ever do your first one, and then there's preparation needed before each one that you do. And so here we go. Listings are one of the best ways to leverage your time and resources. You should get 1 to 3 other deals out of your listings by holding open houses, by posting it on social media, by putting out postcards and things like that. So you're going to meet other people, buyers and sellers, who are interested in doing business with you because you've got this listing. But listings are harder for new agents to get. And because sellers tend to be a little more savvy, they're a little more, they've got more at stake. You know, they're giving you their biggest asset, more than likely their biggest asset to sell for them. And they want to know that they can trust you to get the job done right. So if you get the opportunity to help a friend or a family member who already knows, likes, and trusts you to list their property, take it. I'll work together with you very closely. We can co-list it, and that way they'll be assured that they're going to get treated well and have a good experience and have the job done right. Martin and I just did one. I'm working with Mike Menahem on one right now. And you know, so 1 or 2, however many you want to do together to give sellers the confidence that you can do the job. They want to know, how many homes have you sold? How many listings have you had? Have you sold anything in my neighborhood? And things like that. So when you don't have a track record of any sales, it's really hard to convince a seller to work with you, especially if they don't already know you. So in both of the cases that I'm talking about, Martin and Mike both knew the sellers already, but they still wanted to be assured that they're going to be taken care of, right? And that they're going to have a great experience. I think we did that. We're still working on Mike's. It's been on the market for a couple months now. Seller wanted to try the price a little bit higher than we recommended, and so now we're at a close to the right price to get an offer. And we did get an offer last week, but it didn't come together. But anyway, that one's going to hopefully sell pretty soon. When you get busier, you can handle more listings than you can buyers. You're not spending all your time running around showing homes, 20 homes to the same buyer, hoping they're going to pick one. You've got a lot of work to do at the beginning to market it and get that all set up. And then basically you hang out and wait for the other agents to sell it for you. And there's some things you can do in between to promote it and hold open houses. But the bulk of the work happens at the beginning of the listing when you're setting up all the marketing. And then you have time to go on and do something else. And it's easier to take a vacation when you have listings instead of buyers. So there's some good reasons to go after listings. Either, don't be afraid to go after them now, but just know that we're probably going to need to do it together while you're new. Okay. You can hold open houses in your own listings if you've got the listing, you're in charge. So if you don't want to hold the open house, say you did Saturday, but you have planned Sunday, you can share that with somebody else in the office and get them an opportunity to hold it open. But I would encourage you to make the most of every listing you've got to hold it open and meet more buyers and sellers. You will meet sellers at your open houses. There's neighbors going to be looking around to see what this house looks like compared to theirs. And maybe they're thinking of selling sometime in the next few months, 6 months, a year. And they're just trying to stay on top of what's going on in their market. And they're looking to meet a realtor who is interested in this neighborhood and who knows something about this neighborhood to work with. So make sure that you create items of value for both buyers and sellers when you set up your materials for your open houses. We talked about open houses at a previous session, so just want to remind you that there will be sellers coming to your open houses, not just buyers. You want to make an effort at developing a 1-minute elevator speech, shorter if possible even. What makes you different? What makes you special? How could you help somebody sell their home or buy their home? So that's for your open houses to, when you meet somebody, give them a short blurb about who you are and how you work. Okay, and explain why people should want to work with you. All right, and if you've practiced your scripts a little bit, you're going to be more confident and more prepared to handle questions and inquiries from people. All right, get this go forward. I think I have this, there we go. So preparation is the key to having a successful listing presentation. I love this little graphic, keep calm and be prepared. I'm not sure where I got that, but I liked it. Before your first one, you want to role play with either me or another agent and practice what to say. Practice with a friend or family member and pretend that you were going to meet with them to sell their house. And you want to have your materials and kind of pretend to go through the listing presentation, talk about the pricing and so forth. You can shadow another agent or me to see how we do things. I've asked the other more experienced agents when they have a listing presentation, please let me know and I'll see who could go with them to learn and shadow. So some of them will do that as we get busier and get back to business as normal. I hope we'll be able to do that. I would recommend going ahead and buying a yard sign, at least one. That way when you're offered the opportunity to list a home, you'll have it. It takes about a week to get one, and if you got offered a listing opportunity and you had to wait a week to get the yard sign, that's not going to look good. So just get one. They're $30 from the Marketing Design Center. It's easy to go get a sign frame, at least if you have a sign. You've got that part out of the way, and then you can just go to the local sign store and pick up a frame for it. And that won't take a week. That'll just be, today. So I recommend doing that, at least one yard sign, maybe 2 or 3 if you have a little extra money for that and want to, really focus on that, but at least one, because I'm pretty sure that some of you are going to get to do a listing at some point early in your career here. Okay. You can also go online and Google listing presentation information. I have a book in my office from Nolie Williams. He's a Keller Williams agent in Austin, Texas, and he has a coaching program. And I bought his book and his listing presentation package, and it was a game changer for me. And that's what some of the things in this package of stuff I'm going to give you came from. Of course, I'm not Nolie Williams. He's a tall black cowboy guy. I'm not Nolie. So his voice and his message is a little different than my message. And the same thing will be for you. You and I are very different in how we approach life and approach real estate. So go ahead and make changes to the materials to reflect your voice and your perspective on life and things. So, and your style, so that it can shine through in the materials. But what I learned from Nolie was that anybody can become a listing agent, even right out the gate. And you got to outshine the competition. Before I read Noli's book, I would show up with a plain old MLS CMA, and that's it. Basically, I really didn't have much else to put in a listing presentation. I didn't know I needed to. So when I read Noli's book, a light bulb went off. I need to bring them items of value. I need to present that I know what I'm doing, and I need to show them, I need to overwhelm them with information so that they can see that I know what I'm doing and I have something to teach them and help them. I have the skills and tools to help them sell their home. So I started to get more listings when I used his program. So maybe if you take that to heart and use these materials that I'm going to share with you, you'll be able to pick up some listings and run with it. That's my hope. Okay, dressing for success. Now, when we talked about open houses, I said that I thought you should dress about one level above the other people that you're going to be meeting. But for listing presentations, I recommend 2 levels. So if they're going to be in jeans and t-shirts, then you need to be at a higher level of dress, a dress or nice outfit, nice jewelry, not overwhelming. You don't want to be come across as unapproachable or snobby, but you want to look professional. So you don't need to wear a suit and a coat and a tie in Albuquerque or high heels and a dress and pearls in Albuquerque. It's kind of casual here, but you do want to dress a little bit better than the people that you're going to be working with so that you look like the professional. I love this picture that I found on the internet. This is the same person, and one looks like a frump, one looks very professional. So think about that as you prepare how you're going to look for your listing presentations and open houses. And not that you have to go crazy and, you know, get all dolled up, but do take care to make sure your appearance looks nice. All righty, first impressions count, right? And you will have a really hard time undoing a first impression. And so make it really wow, okay? I recommend not wearing perfume and cologne. Some people are allergic to it. Some people don't like it. I don't care for perfume. And I would not have a good impression of somebody who came into my home in a cloud of perfume or cologne. I would be, hurry up and get out of my house, okay? So you want to be nice and freshly groomed, but not smelling like a cloud of perfume. All right, if you're working with luxury homes, say anything over $450 in our market, definitely would recommend dressing up a little bit better. Wear a suit coat, maybe not a tie, but at least a suit coat or a dress, and makeup and earrings and whatever, just to look a little nicer. Make sure that your shoes are clean and your nails are clean and all that stuff. So, okay. So first of all, you want to get to know the home that you're going to be listing. So once you've got the address for the home that you're going to be working on, you want to go to the MLS and see when it last sold, see what it last sold for, and find out whatever details were available for the homeowner at that time. Things could be different now depending on how long they've owned it. So that's going to be our next list, is what questions do we need to know to be able to find out what they've done to the home, how much have they invested in the home, and things like that. So pull up the MLS, read it, and also pull up the tax data sheet from Remine. Check to see who's on title, because you want to be meeting with both parties if it's a husband and wife, or all of the decision makers. So sometimes, like for example, I just recently listed a home where only the husband was on title, but the wife definitely had a say-so in things. So I just assumed when I first talked to them that they were both on title, but when I got into it, I found out only he's on title. I don't know why they did that. I never asked. It's not my business. But it did make my job easier that I only had to get signatures from one party. But I definitely had to make sure she was on board with whatever we were doing. She had a say. Okay? They worked together on it. Okay, you also want to know who were the last agents that were involved in the transaction. One question I would have is, why aren't they going back to that agent? Could be that agent isn't in the business anymore, they didn't have a good experience, or that agents moved away, or whatever, or they just didn't stay in touch. But I'd like to know who last was involved in this transaction for both sides. How long have they owned it? What did they pay for it? You might be able to find that out in Remine. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, either in Remine or the MLS. But if they bought it as a for sale by owner, you probably can't find out how much they paid for it. It might be in Remine, it might not. So, my take is that often when I see for sale, somebody bought a for sale by owner, is usually they paid too much for it. That's what I've found historically, which is kind of interesting because they think they're saving money that way. Okay, you want to drive around the neighborhood ahead of time if you're not already familiar with the neighborhood, and get to know what's there and how it's positioned in the neighborhood. Is it up against a busy street? Is it up against the school, a shopping center? Where is it in the neighborhood? And how does it compare to its neighbors? Does it look nicer or worse than the neighbor homes? And then I recommend taking a picture of it from the outside so that you can use that in your listing presentation materials. It impresses them that you've been there, that you've taken the time and the trouble to photograph their house and make it included in the marketing materials, so that it doesn't look so canned and pre-prepared and generic. Okay, so that's a really nice touch that will go a long way towards impressing the seller that you've done your homework. Okay, and I would bring an extra copy of both the last listing and the tax report for their information, because they've probably forgotten what they paid for it or misremembered. They don't remember the condition exactly, perhaps, when they bought it, and like, I don't know, lots of different details that might be forgotten or assumed differently. So if you have that information, you can find out what's different, and you can make sure that when you do the listing, you have the correct modern information up to date. They've converted the garage into a bedroom. Well, was that done with permits, and how was that done? Was it done by a licensed contractor, or did they do it themselves? Those are questions you'd want to know about and clarify. Okay. All righty. A little drink of water. All right. And getting warm in here. Get out of my shirt. Okay. So how has the condition changed since the last sale? It's nice to try to find out how much they've put into the home. Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they don't know, or they've lost track. They could either inflate it or not give you enough information about how much they actually invested in this home to make it a better home. Did they upgrade the kitchen or the baths, change out the air conditioning, put a new roof, things like that. And also it's helpful to know, how was it last transferred? Was it an in-family, within the family transfer? Was it inherited? Was it a spousal transfer, and things like that? You also want to find out if there was a mortgage on the home still. Not too many people have paid off their home, but there are some, especially if they're older. So it will still show that there's a mortgage on the home, even if it's been paid off. So you want to find out, what do they still owe on the home? Sometimes they'll tell you, sometimes they won't. I don't know why it would be considered private information, but some people feel that way. It's helpful to know what their current interest rate is, so that when you do a seller's net calculation, you can factor that in. And you also want to know if they've ever had a loan modification. Back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, there were a lot of loan modifications happening, more so like 10, 11, and 12. And that was when people's homes were, they owed more on them than they were worth, and they were begging the banks to please reduce their mortgages because their homes weren't worth that anymore. And the banks were doing that. However, I've never seen the paperwork on one, and I never tried to get one, but what I'm told is there is a payback penalty when you go to sell it. So you want to find out about that. If they ever had a loan modification, you need to dig out the paperwork and look at the fine print and see what the terms are upon sale. They may have to give some of the money they got at that time back to the bank. Now that the house is worth more, the bank may say, okay, give us that money back. Can't have that free money. Okay. And you also want to know how much has the house appreciated since they bought it. So if they bought it for $200,000 and now it's worth $300,000, they're looking at $100,000 capital gain. How is that going to impact them tax-wise? And is it, or is it? So have them talk to their accountant about that. If there's any concerns about taxation, they need to talk to an accountant up front. So it'd be good. It's good to be able to give them good advice and say, I don't know the tax rules. Please talk to your accountant. And they'll thank you for that advice. Okay, you can use the PowerPoint listing presentation itself to keep you on track as you go through the listing presentation and talk about the various aspects of selling a home. We have a really, really good PowerPoint presentation in the RSA. I'm going to show you that right now, if I can. I have one that I have modified for myself, and I'll go to that first. I can find it. Okay, it goes in here. Okay. I think I have a folder called Listing Marketing here. Home Smart Listing Presentation right here. Last updated February 29th. So sometimes I present this listing presentation in person. Sometimes I set it ahead of time as an email, and sometimes I print it out and drop it off in a folder on their doorstep before our presentation. So let's see, I'm trying to find the most recent version here. Here we go. Portfolio presentation. This is the PowerPoint show. So this was a house that I think Martin and I were working on. And so I basically prepared this for that particular family using a picture of their house in the front. So we talk about the things that we're going to be doing to get their home sold right here, the different steps involved, and what we're going to do. Learning about their home, talking about different things I need to know about their home. And market data, explanation of how to price their home right here. Okay. This is a very detailed explanation about pricing strategy. You guys seeing this okay?
Yep.
I hope so. Okay. And then here's a little bit about me. Here's one of the few pages in here that I had to modify. Explain who I am and why they should hire me. The marketing plan for their property. Oops. This is not going backwards, it's going forward. I don't know how to set it backwards. Nope. Go backwards. I can't make it go backwards. So anyway, these are some of the things about the process of selling your home and the things that we're going to do to market it. I'm going to get out of this and do that again. Try to pick it up from where we were. So there's some blank slides in here for the marketing report and the CMA, marketing trends for the entire area, as well as their particular property. I didn't include those in here because I didn't have them prepared, but I wanted to give them all this other information. So here's a few more slides that you would want to prepare. Might be hard to read that, but anyway. So I think this is where we lost. So I don't have a team, so I deleted this page or hid it. Here's where we were. So this is the marketing plan that I'm going to use for them. And you know, all the things that we can do to market their home. Not all of these would be needed or apply, but there you go. And then I pulled some reviews that I've gotten from people off of Zillow and Facebook to let them know that I have had lots of happy clients. And some information about Matt Widows is in here to explain the HomeSmart history and story, and about the prestige of HomeSmart and why they, how that helps us compared to other large brokerages. They might not have heard of HomeSmart, but if they can see that we're, well known in the industry, that will help you. And this is an explanation of how we've grown from 22,000 of 3 agents at the very beginning, and now we're over 18,000 agents. So system-wide benefits. So why should they hire HomeSmart as a company? So here's some information for them about HomeSmart and how we rank in the world of real estate. Some of our marketing tools that will benefit them. How we find buyers for their home. Different avenues that we're going to be working with to find buyers. This one doesn't want to go backwards either. This is a helpful tool that you could put in your listing package, and this is a printout that you can get from the Marketing Design Center that explains all of the different real estate pages and websites that we can be found on. Our listings automatically get sent out to all of these sites, 1,000+ websites. So when the competition,
is that just through the MLS, or is that just when we get a listing?
We have a direct feed to all of these companies. So it's not just the MLS.
And HomeSmart's not charging us, the listing agents, for that. It's doing all that for us.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's this is pretty impressive. Some of these sites people will have heard of, and some they won't have heard of. Show them about our flyers and how nice they look. Explain that they're super easy to create for us. Smart Search helps our listings get found out there on the internet and helps buyers find properties on your website. Our instant YouTube videos here. The Smart Tours. You can set buyers up to come and look at a gallery of homes right on your website. And then this is explaining how you're going to help them. So this sort of goes through the different steps of buying and selling a home. You can walk through this with them and explain the process very easily using this flow chart. And some explanation of the different terms that we're going to be using in the process of selling their home, so they understand a little bit more about what we do. All right, so here's some tips for getting your home ready to show, and factors about selling, some that we can control and some that we can't. And what to expect during the process of escrow. So talking about inspections and qualifying the buyer and moving tips. We have a new service that we're working with that will help people with the process of hiring movers and moving their utilities, cutting them off at one place, setting them up at the new place, and a set of referrals for businesses and things that they're going to need as they get started in their new home. So here it is, introducing our vast network of partners. And then a closing note from me that I wrote about me to say thank you for listening to my listing presentation. This is written for you. You can modify it to how you want. Put your own picture there and stuff like that. So it's pretty extensive and very professional looking. And I didn't know when I was a new realtor that I needed to do that. So I think when I started using the HomeSmart tools, that really helped me start to get more listings. And I went from doing 20% listings and 80% buyers to the other way around of doing about 70% listings and 30% buyers. And it would shift. Sometimes it would go to 60-40 or 50-50, but I really made it a focus to go after listings, and it paid off.
So is PowerPoint something we're able to download? Is this something we can have access to, or?
Yes, there is a Google version, I believe. There's a version called Key, which I'm not sure if that works with Google or Mac or what it is. Does anybody else know what Key is? Okay, so there's PowerPoint and there's Key. You can also modify these through Google. So if you have a Google account, which most everybody does, you can import this and modify it through Google Sheets. I think it's Google Key. So you will be able to do it through that if you don't have Microsoft Office Suite. I like Office Suite. I pay like $69 a year to have access to all of the Microsoft tools. I think it's well worth it. Okay, so where were we? Let's go back to our other PowerPoint presentation. There we go. All right. PowerPoint from current slide. There we go. So you can use that PowerPoint presentation to guide you as you make your PowerPoint presentation to the seller. You can send it ahead of time and let them read it, because there's a lot of information in there and you can't really go through every little word of it with them. But if they've had a chance to preview it a day or two before your listing presentation, it's actually really going to help you have an easier time of convincing them to work with you. So I had a listing presentation when I first got here in like July of last year. I'd been here a couple of months, and I got a referral from another HomeSmart agent to help her cousin. That was the couple I was just telling you about. And I interviewed with them and two other companies they interviewed. One was the company that sold them the lot and the builder that they bought their house from. And the other was another realtor that I happen to know in town. I don't know how they got her name, maybe through, just Zillow, or I don't know how they got her, but I think she was referred to them by the same person who gave me the referral. And it took them about a week to decide. They weren't ready to decide on the spot. But what I did was I went to their house ahead of time the day before with a folder, a HomeSmart branded folder of all my listing handouts and the PowerPoint presentation, and handed that to them ahead of time. Knocked on their door and I said, hey, I'm just here to drop this off for you. And they're like, hey, do you want to come in? And I said, no, I'll meet with you tomorrow, but I just wanted to drop this information off ahead of time. So, that really impressed them, I think, because when they did hire me, they said that I blew them away with my professionalism. Now, it was all the tools that I presented to them, the 360 camera that I showed them, and the effort that I went to prepare them for the listing presentation and to follow up. So there you go. Now, it does help you set the stage for a positive experience with you in the listing presentation. So one of the things that the seller is most going to be concerned about is the money, right? They want to know, how much is my house worth? How much is it going to cost me to sell it? So we have that pricing strategy discussion based on the materials in the listing presentation, and we have a CMA discussion, and I bring them a CMA prepared with some appropriate comps, a general overview of the neighborhood of what has sold, and some more specific comps that are the closest thing that I can find to be like their house. Now, come to the listing presentation, I may not have ever been in their house before, so I'm not going to be able to have an exact number until after I've seen the house and learned more about the house. But if I've done my homework ahead of time, I would be able, in the presentation at the meeting time, to be able to tell them, I think your house is going to sell in this range, and I might give them a $20,000 range between $350 and $375, something like that, and that let them understand the ramifications of going too high to price it to start, or if they start low, they're going to have a bidding war and have lots of offers to choose from. 90% of the time or more, a seller's going to say, well, I'm not going to start low, I want to start high. I don't want to take a chance of leaving some money on the table. They want to try to start strong in their mind and come down rather than have a bidding war where they get 5 offers right after it comes on the market, and then they get to choose which buyer they want. They don't look at it that way. They look at it like they're going to lose money if we do that. So there's ways to handle bidding so that it's fair and everybody has a good shot at getting the house, a fair shot. So we can talk about that another time, but at any rate, most of the time they're going to want to start high. So be careful about the range that you give them for their home. There's a lot of agents out there that will tell them if their house is worth 400 that they can sell it for 450. They can't. They just can't. They might be able to get a couple points over what it's really worth, but that's about it. They're not going to be able to get that kind of return on a market. Like, it's just not going to happen that way. But sellers want to believe that. So you got to caution them about hiring the agent based on the listing price that they propose. And I make it clear, Mr. Seller, you are in charge of the price that we listed at. Here's the statistics. Here's the CMA. Here's how I think your house compares to the house over here that recently sold. And I recommend this price point. It's up to you to decide. And hopefully that keeps those people that are trying to bid for the house by saying it'll sell for 25 or 30 or 50,000 more than it's really worth from getting the listing. And I explained to them, if you overprice it, it's going to sit there, and you're going to be unhappy, and you're going to think it's my fault that it's not selling. I have only so much control over this process. I can control the marketing and the exposure that it gets, and I can give you my best advice about the listing price, but I can't control what buyers and sellers or buyers are going to do out there, and I can't control what the competition is doing out there. So we have to factor all of those things in.
Camille,
Yes.
one of the things that I heard this week, I was on a couple of calls with a couple of mortgage bankers here in Santa Fe, and then on a real estate forum, I heard that the first quarter inventory in Santa Fe was the lowest it's ever been since they started keeping record of those things. And they expected that Q2 would also be extremely low, A, just because inventory is not there, and B, because of COVID-19. With that said, I also heard from some other agents on those calls that people selling their homes are willing to sit on them a little bit longer to get that extra 20 or 25,000 if that they think they can. So you have a valid point where when you can overprice, but I think sometimes the market and the industry itself overinflate the confidence in some sellers.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And you're often going against other agents when you have a listing appointment. Even if they already know you, they might talk to a couple other people.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to get a different price suggestion from each one more than likely. Maybe higher, maybe lower than where you're at. It's somewhat subjective because we're going to look at comps a little differently and our experience is a little different. But sometimes I see this a lot, that agents will overprice a listing in hopes of getting the seller to believe that they can do it. So I just say, fine, I'll be your second realtor when it doesn't work out with them. Just give me a call.
What happened to me?
I'll be here. You can call me next. Okay, anybody have any comments or thoughts at this point? Questions? Okay, good. We'll move on then. All right, I'm gonna tuck you guys down. I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably not. Okay, so the marketing presentation. You want to share about your experience. Even if you're new, you have experience that you can use and you can highlight that. And of course, if I'm with you, I'll share my experience too and back you up. And when we go on a listing presentation together, I really want to make it about making you shine, not me, but I want them to know that they have an experienced realtor backing you up and that you're going to do a great job because I'm going to make sure of that. Okay. Sharing your marketing materials and using the HomeSmart marketing materials will make you look like a pro and make you look like you've sold 100 homes already. So be sure and take advantage of those. All right. Internet listing promotion. So we've talked a little bit about social media promotion. All of these are good venues for promoting your listings, and you want to let sellers know that you know how to help them find a buyer even without the MLS. They took the MLS away tomorrow, you would still be able to market their home, and that you know how to find buyers out there on the internet, because 90% of the buyers out there are on the internet, and they find their home first on the internet and then tell their realtor, I want to go see this home. So if you haven't had that experience yet, you will. And especially with the OpCity leads, they're on realtor.com looking for a home, and they've already found the home that they're interested in, and now they just need somebody to let them in and walk them through the process. So we have that ability to find buyers through lots of different social media avenues and real estate websites. There's lots of free training in the Real Smart Agent panel for all of these venues. Okay, and if you haven't done a Zillow, if you haven't put your Zillow profile in yet, please do that. Because if you get a listing and you don't have a profile set up, you're not going to get any leads off of it. Zillow is one of the few sites that still gives the listing agent credit for the listing. They'll have 3 other agents in the area that have paid a lot of money to be on that page, and then at the bottom it says listing agent. So you're still on the list, but if you don't have a profile, you won't be. They'll just be the other the other agents who are going to pick up your buyers. And I do get calls from people finding it on Zillow and contacting the listing agent. So you want to make sure that you have your Zillow profile and your realtor.com profile and your homes.com profiles taken care of, with pictures and a description and that sort of thing, so that you can be the one that they refer to as the listing agent. Okay, you can do paid ads, but you can also do free posting. Some of you have been posting in the marketplace. That's a fantastic free tool for finding buyers. That listing that I had out in Rio Rancho, 4-bedroom, 3-bath, priced at, we started at $425, which was too high, but when we got it down to the right price range, I was getting calls and mostly text messages through Facebook Messenger. Whenever I would post it there and freshen it up and put a new picture or put a new contact or put a new, not contact, but a new price point, then we'd lowered the price and changed the wording a little bit, I would get, you know, anywhere from 2 to 5 people contacting me a week about that listing. Is this still available? And I could say, yes, it is, but we just lowered the price. I didn't notice that it was out of date. It's now at $389. And, you know, is this something you would be interested in? And I send them a mobile friendly link to the listing and follow up with them. And hopefully some of them were, you know, like, no, that's not right for me. Or, you know, some of them I farmed those leads out to the other agents and said, please give this person a call, or I would bring them in to a 3-way conversation instead of just 2-way, to say, you know, Amy, would you take over this client? It's in your area, or whatever. So I gave away a lot of leads to the other agents in the office that way too. You don't want to do that, but I do, because I want you all to be busy and be successful. So to me, that was worthwhile to do. Okay. All right. If you have a tablet, I would recommend using that in your listing presentation. It sort of shows a higher level of tech savvy if you have a tablet, but you know, don't go out and buy one just for that. But if you have one, you can load this into your iPad or Android tablet and present it that way. And it's a nice way to do it. So see how that agent is, you know, able to scroll through the PowerPoint presentation while the client holds it, and then you can have a conversation. All right, so you want to explain the selling process as part of your listing presentation and show them that you know how to sell homes. Again, you're using the listing presentation to explain some of the things that we're going to be doing, like inspections, and you want to set the expectations about renegotiations during the ORW phase, and you know, it kind of give them some options. Do you want to do a home inspection ahead of time and head off some of those problems, or do you want to just wait and see what they bring up? It's your choice, Mr. Seller. They might also be buying a home to replace the home that they're selling. They could be moving up in value or moving down in value. So if they're older empty nesters and they don't need a 4-bedroom home anymore, and maybe they're tired of taking care of a big home and a big yard, and now it's just the two of them and their dog, and they just need a smaller place in a quieter neighborhood with not next to the school anymore and stuff like that. So that could be one scenario. They need to buy another home, or their family could have been growing and they've got too many kids for the size house they're in and they need a bigger house. So if that's the case, you can set up this listing presentation. I just showed you the listing side, but it's actually set up with several slides for buyers. And all you have to do is unhide those slides to let them show. And then you can explain the process of what it's going to take to buy and sell simultaneously. That's kind of tricky, and it takes some skill to do that. So if you get one of those, got to sell and buy at the same time, definitely I want to help you, because there's a lot of things that could go wrong with that, and I can help you with dealing with that so that we have the most chance of success getting both transactions to work. Okay, so what to say? The goal of the interview is to find out more about their situation so that you can help them better. Sometimes that feels a little nosy. Sometimes it feels a little invasive, both to you and to them. So there's some gentle diplomatic ways to find out things like how much do you owe and things like that. What's their motivation? What's their time frame? Why are they moving at this time? How important is it to them to move at this time? Do they have a job in another state that they have to get to by a certain date? So that means that it's imperative that they get this done. They can't afford 2 mortgages. So they've got to get this sold by, May 1st to be able to be in their new house by May 15th and that sort of thing. So you need to know a little bit about their motivation. If they're just, would like to sell because they'd like to change their environment, there's no urgency, there's no imperative. Those sellers are going to be a little bit harder to work with. They're going to be a little bit harder to get them to negotiate. They don't have a fire under their butt to get them to move, like somebody who's got a job change or just lost their job and is afraid they're going to lose their home in foreclosure. So those people have a high motivation level. We want people who have a high level of motivation to work with. That's ideal, but sometimes you don't get that, and it's worth it to give it a try and see if you can help them. They'd like to move, but they don't have to move. You want to find out what they like and they don't like about the property that they're in now, and that will help you as you set up your marketing, as people ask you questions about the house. I see there's a school next door. Is that bothersome? Find out if it was bothersome to the sellers. Or there's a park next door. Was that a plus or a minus for them? So there's lots of ways to spin that. So one family might think a park next door is a great thing, and somebody else might find it to be a problem. So it kind of depends on their perspective. You want to find out where they're going next. Are they moving in with kids in another city because they can't take care of themselves? They're older and they need help. Or, are they moving out of their parents' home and into their first home? That sort of thing. If they're young buyers anyway, that's not really appropriate for sellers, but where are they going to next? Do they need to move to a different school district or whatever? Okay, it's a good idea to find out what they think their home is worth. They've been watching Zillow and Realtor.com, and they've been watching their neighbors, and they've been going to other open houses in the neighborhood. They might have an idea of what they think their home is worth. And you want to know that ahead of time, because if your idea is different than theirs, you're going to have some negotiating to do to get the right listing price. But it's good to find out what they think it's worth so that you can deal with their expectations around that. The easier the home is to show, the faster it will sell. So I always have a conversation with them about that. What do we need to do to show your home? Can you show on an hour's notice? Is it going to be vacant? Do you need 24 hours notice? Is there a tenant there that we have to deal with? So you want to know what your limitations are going to be around that so that you can deal with that ahead of time and explain to them the easier you make it for me to show it, the faster it's going to sell. So I've had people, tell me at the beginning, I want you here for every showing. I need 24 hours to get it ready, yada, yada, yada. But once I explain this to them, they're like, okay, well, we can deal with 1 or 2 hours of notice, and no, you don't have to be there, you know? So everybody handles this stuff differently. Some sellers want you to be there and they think that's part of your job to be there. I always try not to take those listings. I don't have time to be there for every showing. But sometimes that's their expectation, and if you have the time, go ahead and do that. Offer that service to them. If you can, get a little extra money for that, because it is going to take a lot more time to do it that way. But if they don't trust having a lockbox on there, or they think it's your job to do the Vanna thing and explain the house, you know, you'll have to go along with that to get the listing. All right, you want to find out what's going to happen if the house doesn't sell. So say they are not in a hurry to sell, so they price it too high and 6 months later it hasn't sold. What's going to happen next? Are they going to rent? Are they going to just wait out the market and try again next year? Or are they going to lower the price and get it sold? And whatever they tell you now is probably not really what's going to happen if that happens. So motivations can change in the middle of the deal. Martin and I saw that in a house we were just listing together. At first, the seller was like, well, we could rent it out, or, you know, we're not desperate to sell. But by the end of the escrow that we were in, they were ready to sell. And they took a price hit on the ORW that they had told us in the beginning they would not take. So people's motivations and reasons and needs change during the process of selling their home. So be aware of that and be ready to deal with that and be flexible about that. You might also ask them how long they've been thinking of moving. So maybe it's been a new idea, or maybe they've been thinking about it for a couple of years and they're finally getting around to doing something. That's good information to have. Helps you understand their motivation and their time frame. And you want to find out, this last line, is your goal to sell the home fast, find the perfect buyer, or make the most money? You can't have all 3 of those. You might be able to get 2 out of 3, but you won't be able to get all 3. What is your priority as a seller? That's good information to have. Any questions right now? Okay, so I'm going to give you this PowerPoint presentation so you'll have this and you can review it whenever you get close to having a listing presentation, so don't worry. Okay, always bring a listing agreement with you. They may not sign up with you at the appointment, but you better be ready if they do want to sign, okay? Even if you have to hand fill it out and all it's got in there is the address, or even not even the address. It's a good idea to bring a listing agreement with you in case they do say, yep, let's go ahead and do it, okay? That way they can't have second thoughts when you go away and say, oh, okay, I'll send you this by Instanet and DocuSign tonight. And by then they've gotten another call from another agent and interviewed somebody else and changed their mind and hiring somebody else. Don't let that happen. So if you can, clinch the deal, get the listing signed at the time of the appointment. Sometimes they're going to say, well, we're going to interview 2 more agents and you've got to wait. So you could ask them, is there anything holding you back from signing today other than that? Have you seen enough today to know that I can do a good job for you? And if so, would you be willing to sign a listing agreement right now? And if not, then they say, well, what is it that you still need to know to be comfortable hiring me? Okay, that's actually Tom Ferry line. What else would you need to know to be comfortable hiring me today? And they might say, well, we just want to see what other agents have to say about the price, or we want to see somebody else's marketing plan, or my wife's cousin is a realtor and we have to give her a chance. Okay, you can't really argue with some of those, but you could. On the others, you can say, you know, well, the price is the price. I don't set the price, the market does. And do you have confidence that I'm going to do a good job marketing your home for you to get you the best possible price? Well, yeah, we do, but we promised this other Berkshire Hathaway agent a chance at the listing too. You know, you can argue a little bit, but you can't beat them over the head and you can't force them. But there are things you can gently say to say, well, what would it take for you to be confident in hiring me? And then you might find out what's really going on and what they really think and what you need to do to polish up your presentation to do a better job next time to get the listing. Okay. Sometimes they need more time to get the house ready to sell and they don't want to sign a listing agreement because They think they're going to be locked into selling it before they're actually ready. So you can assure them in the listing agreement that there's a place where you can postpone the actual on-market date. But if you can get the listing signed today, you can start getting some of the back information, the preparation ready to get ready to put their house on the market the minute that they're ready. Because there is a lot of preparation and work to do ahead of time. And hiring a photographer or getting, information that you need and so forth. Getting your signs ready or whatever. There's lots of stuff you could be doing ahead of time to get ready. So if they say they're going to interview more agents, which they sometimes will, and they say, we're going to make a decision in a week, well, make sure that you follow up the next day with a thank you or that day. And you also follow up in 2 to 3 days to see if they've made a decision, because I've had it happen time and again where I follow their guidance to say they're going to make a decision in a week, and in a week I follow up and I find out that they've already hired somebody else. So you want to do your follow-up about half as much time as they say they're going to take to make a decision. So if they said it's a month, follow up in 2 weeks. If it's a week, follow up in 2 or 3 days. I hate finding out they hired somebody else because I waited to find out if they're ready. Okay, here's some helpful tips for you. Always call the contract a listing agreement, paperwork, or forms. Contract sounds scary to lay people. And that takes a little bit of practice to get used to saying that and avoiding the word contract. Listing agreement, paperwork, and forms sounds a lot better and less confronting and less scary. Make sure that you have 2 pens with you. If you get a listing agreement signed and you don't have a pen with you, how the heck are you going to sign it? And if don't make them hunt around for a pen. Be ready. Have a nice pen. I just bought some beautiful, nicer quality HomeSmart pens for us to use for that purpose and to give away. And you also want to follow up with a thank you note by snail mail immediately. And I recommend even having some thank you notes in your car so that you can pen one off and send it in the mail that day. That sends them a very strong message that you're follow up and that you're diligent and care and that you want this listing. All right, so a lot of people don't do that, and so that will make an impression on them. Bring some thank you notes with you, have them ready with stamps and a return address sticker on it with office address, and put it in the mailbox that day to say thank you for the opportunity to meet with you about listing your home. When you're meeting with them, if their TV or radio is on, ask them nicely and gently if they could turn it off, because it's hard to talk over that. Now, they might have kids in the living room who are watching their morning cartoons and you can't, they're not going to work. But if you can, and even if you can set the stage ahead of time, if they have a busy household of kids and dogs and so forth, to say, can we have some quiet time to talk together? Or maybe meet them at the office after you've toured their home so that the kids and the dogs and the TV and the radio are not interfering with what you're trying to talk about. This is business. Okay. And you want to make sure that all decision makers are present for the meeting if at all possible. There's nothing worse than doing your whole presentation, and it can take an hour to do a proper listing presentation, maybe an hour and a half sometimes, depending on if there's a lot to talk about. And at the end of that, you find out that the wife has to make a decision too, and she wasn't there for that. So either the husband is going to try to explain everything you just explained, or you're going to have to do the whole thing again. So try to make sure that both decision makers or all decision makers are going to be there at the time of your presentation so that everybody hears the same thing. Okay? Sometimes that can be hard to do, especially if one spouse is travels for work or has already moved on to the next location that they're moving to or something like that. It happens sometimes. Okay. What to say? Your goal is to build trust with your conversation with them. And sometimes you're going to get resistance to some of the questions, particularly around money. So it's okay to just, work around that question or come back to it once they've had a little bit of a chance to build rapport with you. So take some time to get to know each other, ask questions about their interests and their things they like to do, things that are important to them. Find some common ground with them. They like to play softball and so do you. Or they have a 10-year-old kid and so do you. They have a golden retriever and so do you. Those are nice things to connect with other people. So chat about things with them and try to find out a little bit about who they are and what you can relate to with them. Sports teams and hobbies, that sort of thing. It also helps to give them a small compliment. That will have them open up to you and be more friendly with you if they have the impression that you like them and that you think well of them. So a small compliment about the way they've decorated their home or something they're wearing or somehow that they are, some way that they are with you, you know, will help them open up to you. And you want to practice ahead of time asking probing questions in different ways so that you get the best response and the most information out of them. And you want to ask open-ended questions instead of yes or no questions. You don't want to be nosy, but you do need to be interested in them and you need to find out more about them so you can help them. Okay. All right. Here's a checklist of things to bring with you. The listing handouts in a nice branded HomeSmart branded presentation folder and printed in color, not black and white. You want to bring the CMA, and I would bring in 2 copies, one for them and one for you. Excuse me. The previous MLS listing sheet, 2 copies. Tax and public data report, 2 copies. And your tablet or your laptop with your PowerPoint presentation ready to go. Have it loaded in there and it's ready to go. Just click of a button and you can open it up and get started. You want to bring the listing agreement with you, and you don't need to print out all the disclosure paperwork and have that with you. If you get the listing agreement done, I'm thrilled. You can do the other paperwork later, okay? And you won't waste paper that way, and they can handle that later. It doesn't have to be done at the time of the listing. And if you've got if you know they're going to hire you because they're a family member or something and they've already told you you're going to have the job, you can even bring your yard sign and stick it out there. If they're going to be ready soon, you can put a coming soon sign on it. I don't think that they're going to let us do coming soon anymore after May 1st. That was something that I was surprised that this MLS let us do because my old board did not allow that. But they've been told they have to stop doing that. So once you have the listing, if they're not ready to put it on the market, you can't publicly promote it, not even with a coming soon sign out in the yard. So, but you can bring it anyway and get it ready so that when they are ready, it can go out there. Maybe they're ready that day. Maybe they've done their planning and preparation already and they're ready to start, you know, today or tomorrow, especially if it's a vacant home. Okay. Any questions or comments right now? Okay, we're gonna move on then. All right. Sometimes the seller needs to cancel the listing. We have a very flexible cancellation policy. If they want out of it, I will sign the cancellation, no questions, no problem. You cannot make somebody work with you. Now, if it's not an escrow, they need to complete the deal with us. But if it's before escrow starts and they need to cancel because they've changed their mind about selling or you're not doing a good job, then I will sign their listing cancellation. Now, there's a place in the listing agreement for you to get paid something for your time and your trouble and your expenses if they cancel before the listing agreement ends or it gets an offer. And I think we went through that when we did the listing presentation, the listing paperwork. But if you don't write that in at the beginning, you're probably not going to get anything. So figure out what your time and trouble is worth to have marketed their property and what you'd like to get paid. It should not be any more than 3%, but maybe it's 1%, maybe it's $1,000 if they want to cancel the listing without completing the transaction with you. All right, if you've not done a good job and they want out, then I don't think you're due anything and you'll just have to walk away and take your lumps and learn your lessons and do something else. different next time. So there might come a time that someone would cancel with you because they feel it's your fault that it didn't sell. It may or may not be true. I had one seller, I took on 3 high-end listings for her, and she was impossible. Impossible. There's nobody on this planet who could have worked harder and tried harder to make her happy, and I just could not make her happy. So after 2 months or so, she fired me and wrote a bad review of me in Zillow, and lied through the entire Zillow review about how I never did anything and I didn't do anything I promised to do and so forth, which was absolutely not true. I did absolutely everything I promised to do. And I had put a lot of money and time and effort into marketing those homes, and she wouldn't listen to me that they were way overpriced, and she wouldn't reduce the price. So they, of course, didn't sell. I had lots and lots of showings on those homes. They should have sold if they were priced right, because we had plenty of showings. So don't let that happen to you. If you have a client who you're not working well with for whatever reason, get out of it, let them go find another client who's more pleasant to work with, because I don't want to see you get a bad review, even though you did your best and you did everything you should have done, because they're not reasonable. So I should have, day 2 of that listing, I should have canceled it. I could see it wasn't going to work out, and I kept trying and trying to make her happy. I could not do it. So don't make that mistake. If it's not working out, let them go. Move on, find another deal. All right. Let's see what else we got here. If their plans and needs change, you cannot make them sell their home. So just gracefully let them out of their contract and let them move on. Most other companies won't do that. They'll force them to stay in the listing agreement for the entire period till the very end. And I just think that's bad karma, and it's not good business practice to be like that with people. For whatever reason, their needs have changed. If you treat them well and treat them kindly and be fair with them upon the cancellation, they will refer you other business, and they will remember that and be appreciative of that. Okay. So if they don't go through with the listing, if you wanted to get paid anyway and they're not going to pay you, you would have to sue them to get paid, and you'd better have a contract that says you're due payment. However, I'm not going to back you up on that. I am not suing clients. I just won't. So I think it's a terrible idea. It's a huge emotional waste, and it's going to drag you down in the mud too, and me, and I'm just not going to do it. So the best solution is to smile and shake hands and walk away. And that's the best thing to do. Spend your resources on finding your next deal. Okay. If you encounter a situation with the seller that you don't know how to handle, please, please, please ask for help from me. Or if I'm not reachable, some other more experienced agent. I'm here to help you. And I have a lot of experience with holding deals together that are going sideways. So I can't save everything, but I sure have a lot more experience on how to do that. And I can come up with creative solutions to solve problems if you're stuck at the ORW phase in negotiations. I had one of our agents call me the other day to say that they had agreed on the ORW to have licensed contractors doing the work, and then the seller didn't do that. He did it himself. Now, he was a licensed contractor, but he wasn't a licensed roofer and he wasn't a licensed plumber. And the buyers are like, this isn't right. We want to, we told you, you agreed in the listing presentation that we were going to have licensed people do this work. So she calls me up and she says, what do I do now? How do I get this to go ahead and close? It's set to close tomorrow, and we have this hiccup about the ORW situation. So we talked it through, and I made a few suggestions. And what I told her is they need to give a warranty, a 6-month warranty, that if anything goes wrong in the first 6 months, that they'll come back and fix it. So, or let the buyers choose a licensed contractor to come back and fix it. So I think that's what they ended up doing. So, I'm here to help you with those kinds of problems. Okay, you're allowed to double side a deal. So if the seller's okay with that, and sometimes a lot of them are, they think power to you if you can get both sides. They might ask you to discount your commission if you're representing both sides. And so it's up to you if you want to do that or not. If you aren't comfortable representing both sides, you feel like that's a conflict of interest and you're not comfortable with that, then you can refer that other side to another HomeSmart agent in the office and let them represent that buyer and you represent the seller, and that's perfectly okay. You still get something out of that. There's some differences in the mindset of helping sellers versus buyers. Buyers are trying to get the cheapest possible house and the seller's trying to get the most money out of the buyer. And there's a different mindset for that. So you want to, it takes a little getting used to. And I struggled with that, to be honest, a little bit at first, because I was used to helping buyers who were trying to get the best possible deal. Now that empathy and understanding of how buyers think and helped me, I think, explain to sellers where they're coming from. But at the same time, they didn't want to hear that. Honestly, they did not want to hear what I think the buyer wants or needs. They wanted what they wanted, and they really didn't give a hoot about what the buyer wanted for the most part. So I'm always looking for the win-win deal to help both sides get what they need and move on with their lives, but it's not always how they're thinking about things. I will co-list with you on your first listing 2 or 3, depending on how many it takes for you to feel comfortable that you can do it on your own. And if you're working on something that's out of your comfort zone or experience level, so say you've never done a house at $750,000 and you're like, what do I do? I'll come and list that with you. I have sold houses at that price point for both buyers and sellers and above that. And so I have some ideas about how we can do that and give them assurance that we can handle that, okay? And I think we're almost at the end of my presentation thing here, but I want to go back and look at some handouts for you so we can go through my handouts. Where are we at? Oh, we've passed our break time. Let's do a quick break and we'll do that before we wrap up. Any questions right now? Everybody's got that. Awesome. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll come back in like 10 minutes or so and I'll show you my handouts and we'll wrap it up and go through any questions you might have and talk about homework, okay? See you in a few.